When Marcus Chun walked into SpaceX headquarters, he was just a desperate father with 72 hours before eviction. His wife was dying of cancer. His children faced homelessness. He had no money, no connections, and no hope left. What happened next would change not just his family's life, but the lives of thousands of families facing the same nightmare. Elon Musk didn't just write a check. He didn't just pay medical bills. What he did was so much bigger, so much more unbelievable, that Marcus couldn't see it until years later. He gave Marcus something no amount of money could buy: the power to transform his family's greatest tragedy into hope for countless others. This is the true story of how one man's desperate plea became a foundation that would save thousands of children's lives. How a father's darkest hour became the light that would guide other families through their own storms. But it all started with an eviction notice and a man who had nothing left to lose. Marcus Chin's hands shook as he read the bright yellow paper taped to his apartment door. The words blurred together, but 3 numbers stood out like a punch to his stomach. 72 hours. 72 hours. 3 days. That's all the time his family had left before they would be kicked out of their home. He pulled the eviction notice down and crumpled it in his fist. The paper felt rough against his sweaty palms. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. "Not now," he whispered to himself. "Please, not now." Marcus took a deep breath and opened the door to their small apartment. The smell of old carpet and medicine hit him right away. This place wasn't much, but it was home. 2 tiny bedrooms, a kitchen with a broken dishwasher, and a living room where his kids did homework every night. The walls were thin, and you could hear the neighbors fighting sometimes. But it was theirs, or it had been theirs. Daddy. His 8-year-old daughter Emma looked up from the kitchen table. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she wore the same pink shirt she'd worn yesterday. "What's that paper?" Marcus quickly stuffed the notice into his pocket. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just some mail." Emma stared at him with those smart brown eyes that always seemed to see too much. She was too young to worry about grown-up problems, but lately, she'd been asking a lot of questions. Questions Marcus didn't know how to answer. "Are you okay, Daddy? You look sad." "I'm fine, Em. Just tired from work." That was true. Marcus worked 3 jobs and barely slept 4 hours a night. During the week, he worked security at a warehouse from midnight to 8 in the morning. On weekends, he did landscaping for rich people in Manhattan Beach. And whenever he had free time, he drove for a food delivery app, racing around Los Angeles. With bags of restaurant food, 3 jobs, and it still wasn't enough. In the bedroom, Marcus could hear his wife Sarah coughing. It was the deep, painful cough that started 3 months ago and never got better. The cough that led to doctor visits, then tests, then more tests, then the words that changed everything. "I'm sorry, but you have cancer." Sarah had pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The doctors at UCLA Medical Center said she might have 6 months if they did nothing, maybe a year with regular treatment. But there was a new experimental treatment at City of Hope Hospital, something called immunotherapy that could help her immune system fight the cancer. The problem was money. Their insurance company said the treatment was experimental and not medically necessary. The appeals had all been denied. The treatment cost $150,000, plus hospital stays and medications. Money they would never have. "Tyler, put that down." Emma's voice snapped Marcus back to the present. His 4-year-old son Tyler was standing on a chair, reaching for something on top of the refrigerator. His little legs wobbled as he stretched up on his toes. "Hey, buddy, what are you doing?" Marcus rushed over and lifted Tyler down. "I want the cookies," Tyler said with a pout. "The ones Mommy made." Marcus's heart broke a little. Sarah had made those cookies 2 weeks ago, before her last treatment made her too sick to get out of bed. They were probably stale by now, but he got the jar down anyway. "Here you go," he said, giving Tyler 2 small cookies. "But eat them at the table, okay?" Tyler nodded and ran to sit next to Emma. Marcus watched them for a moment. Emma was helping Tyler break his cookie into smaller pieces so it wouldn't make a mess. She was always taking care of her little brother, always trying to be the responsible one that they shouldn't have to worry about anything except kid stuff, homework and friends, and what movie to watch on Friday night. Instead, Emma asked questions like, "Why is Mommy so tired? And are we going to have to move?" And Tyler kept asking when Mommy was going to feel better and play with him again. Marcus's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and saw a number he didn't recognize. Probably another bill collector. He'd stopped answering those calls weeks ago. There was no point. He couldn't pay what he didn't have. The phone stopped buzzing, then started again. Same number. "Daddy, your phone is ringing," Emma said. "I know, sweetheart. I'll call them back later." Marcus walked to the window and looked outside. The sun was setting behind the SpaceX building in the distance. He'd driven past that place hundreds of times, delivering food orders to the engineers who worked there. Sometimes he wondered what it would be like to have a job that mattered. A job that was building the future instead of just trying to survive. Until tomorrow, those SpaceX workers probably never worried about eviction notices or medical bills. They got to think about rockets and space travel and all the amazing things humans might do someday. Meanwhile, Marcus spent his nights making sure nobody stole boxes from a warehouse. "Marcus," Sarah's weak voice came from the bedroom, but he hurried to her side. She was lying in their bed, covered with 3 blankets even though the apartment was warm. Her face was pale and thin, but she still had the same kind smile that made him fall in love with her 10 years ago. "How are you feeling?" he asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Better," she lied. They both knew she wasn't better. The last round of chemotherapy had made her so sick she couldn't eat for 3 days. Her hair was almost all gone now, covered by a soft blue hat their neighbor had given her. "The kids are eating dinner," Marcus said. "Tyler wanted cookies, so I let him have a couple." Sarah smiled. "Good. He needs to eat something." Marcus wanted to tell her about the eviction notice. She deserved to know, but she was already fighting for her life. How could he add more worry to that burden? "Sarah, I need to tell you something." She looked at him with tired eyes. "What is it?" Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it again. He could hear Emma reading a book to Tyler in the kitchen. Their voices were soft and happy. Normal kid voices doing normal kid things. "The landlord called," he said finally. "He wants to talk about the rent." It wasn't exactly a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Sarah reached for his hand. Her fingers felt cold and small. "We'll figure something out," she said. "We always do." Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "Yeah, we will." But for the first time in his life, Marcus Chun didn't believe his own words. He had no idea how they were going to figure this out. Tomorrow, he would have to tell the kids they might have to live in their car. He would have to call Sarah's parents and ask for help they couldn't give. He would have to face the fact that all his hard work and sacrifice weren't enough to save his family. As he sat there holding his sick wife's hand, listening to his children's voices in the next room, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. He just didn't know it yet. The next morning, Marcus dropped Emma and Tyler at school like it was any other day. He helped Tyler with his backpack and reminded Emma to eat her lunch. He didn't tell them this might be their last day living in their apartment. "Have a good day, you too," he said, giving them both hugs. "Bye, Daddy." Tyler ran toward his classroom, his little legs moving fast. Emma lingered for a moment. "Daddy, will you pick us up today?" "Of course, sweetheart. I'll be right here at 3 o'clock. She nodded and walked away, but Marcus could tell she was worried. Kids always know when something is wrong, even when adults try to hide it. Marcus sat in his beat-up Honda Civic and watched his children disappear into the school building. The car's air conditioning had broken last month, and he couldn't afford to fix it. The radio only picked up 2 stations. The passenger seat had a rip in it that he'd covered with duct tape, but it was transportation, and if they got kicked out of their apartment, it might become their home. Marcus started the engine and drove west toward Hawthorne. He'd been thinking all night about what to do. He'd called every charity in Los Angeles. He'd tried GoFundMe, but only raised $300 in 2 months. He'd asked his boss at the warehouse for more hours, but there weren't any. He'd applied for 15 different jobs that paid better, but nobody wanted to hire a guy with just a high school diploma. There was only one idea left. One crazy, desperate idea that probably wouldn't work. He was going to ask Elon Musk for help. Marcus knew how insane it sounded. Rich people didn't just help random strangers. They had assistants and security guards and lawyers to keep desperate people like him away. But he'd read articles about Elon Musk online. Stories about how he cared about regular families. How he wanted to make the world better for everyone, not just rich people. Maybe it was stupid. Maybe he'd just embarrass himself and waste time he didn't have. But what else could he do? 20 minutes later, Marcus pulled into the parking lot of SpaceX headquarters. The building was huge and modern, with lots of glass and clean white walls. It looked like something from a science fiction movie. His old Honda looked tiny and pathetic next to all the Tesla cars and fancy trucks in the parking lot. Marcus sat in his car for 10 minutes, trying to get enough courage to go inside. His hands were sweating, and his heart was beating fast. What was he going to say? "Hi, I'm a stranger with problems. Can you give me $150,000? Through the big windows, he could see people walking around inside. Engineers and scientists and smart. People who were building rockets to go to Mars. These people were changing the world. Marcus delivered Chinese food and watched empty warehouses at night. But his wife was dying. His kids were about to be homeless. He had to try something. Marcus got out of his car and walked toward the main entrance. The closer he got, the more nervous he felt. The building seemed to get bigger with every step. Inside the lobby, everything was spotless and expensive looking. There were pictures of rockets on the walls and a real rocket engine displayed behind glass. The ceiling was high, and his footsteps echoed on the polished floor. A security guard sat behind a desk near the entrance. His name tag said Robert. He was an older black man with kind eyes and gray hair. He looked up when Marcus approached. "Good morning," Robert said. "How can I help you?" Marcus's mouth felt dry. Now that he was here, his plan seemed even more ridiculous. "I need to speak with Mr. Musk," Marcus said. "It's about my family." Robert's expression didn't change, but Marcus could tell he'd heard this kind of request before. "Do you have an appointment?" Robert asked. "No, sir, but it's an emergency. My wife has cancer, and we're about to lose our home. I just need 5 minutes." Other people in the lobby started looking in their direction. Marcus felt his face getting hot. A woman in a business suit walked by and stared at him like he was causing trouble. "I'm sorry," Robert said. "Mr. Musk doesn't take meetings without appointments. You'd need to go through his office and request a meeting time." "Please," Marcus said. "I've tried everything else. Banks, charities, insurance companies. Nobody will help us. I heard Mr. Musk cares about regular people. I just thought maybe." Marcus's voice broke a little. He was embarrassing himself, but he didn't care anymore. His family was running out of time. Robert studied Marcus's face for a long moment. Marcus could see other security guards starting to pay attention. Any second now, they'd probably ask him to leave. "What kind of cancer?" Robert asked quietly. "Pancreatic. Stage 4. The doctors say there's a new treatment that might help, but our insurance won't pay for it." Robert nodded slowly. "How old are your kids?" 8 and 4. "A girl and a boy." Marcus pulled out his phone and showed Robert a picture of Sarah in her hospital bed. She was smiling weakly at the camera, wearing her blue hat. Then he showed him a photo of Emma and Tyler at the park from before Sarah got sick. They were both laughing and covered in mud from playing. "This is my family," Marcus said. "Sarah's the strongest person I know. She's fighting so hard to stay with us. Emma wants to be a scientist when she grows up. She loves learning about space and rockets. Tyler just turned 4 last month. He still believes his mommy is going to get better." Marcus's hands were shaking as he held the phone. "I know this sounds crazy, coming here like this, but I love them so much, and I don't know what else to do." Robert stared at the photos for what felt like forever. Marcus could hear people talking and walking around the lobby, but everything seemed far away. His whole future depended on what this security guard decided to do next. Finally, Robert looked up at Marcus. There was something different in his eyes now. Something that might have been respect, or understanding, or maybe just pity. "I have 2 kids myself," Robert said quietly. "Both grown up now, but I remember what it was like when they were small, when you'd do anything to protect them." Marcus nodded, not trusting himself to speak. "Wait here," Robert said. "Don't go anywhere. Don't talk to anyone else. Just wait." Robert stood up and walked away from his desk. Marcus watched him disappear down a hallway. The lobby suddenly felt huge and empty. Other people walked by, talking on phones or carrying important-looking papers. Everyone seemed to belong there except him. Marcus sat down in a chair near the rocket engine display. He tried not to think about what would happen if this didn't work. In 2 days, he'd have to pack up their few belongings and figure out where his family could sleep. Sarah was too sick to stay in a homeless shelter. The kids couldn't miss school. Maybe they could stay in their car for a few nights. Maybe Sarah's parents could take the kids for a while. Maybe there was some program or charity he hadn't found yet. But deep down, Marcus knew he was running out of options. This crazy visit to SpaceX might be his last chance to save his family. 15. Minutes passed. Then 20. Marcus started to wonder if Robert had just called other security guards to come escort him out of the building. Then he saw Robert walking back toward the lobby. He wasn't alone. A woman in a dark business suit was walking beside him. She had brown hair and looked tired, like she'd been working long hours. But her eyes seemed kind. Marcus stood up as they approached. "Mr. Chun," the woman said. "I'm Jennifer Walsh, Mr. Musk's assistant. Robert told me about your situation." Marcus's heart started pounding again. "Yes, ma'am." Jennifer looked at him carefully, like she was trying to decide something important. "Mr. Musk is in meetings all day," she said. "His schedule is completely booked." Marcus's hope started to crumble. "I understand. Thank you for your time. But," Jennifer continued, "he has a rule about people who show up here asking for help. He says anyone brave enough to walk through those doors and tell their truth deserves to be heard." Marcus couldn't breathe. "Can you come back at 6 o'clock tonight?" Jennifer asked. "Yes," Marcus said quickly. "Yes, I'll be here. Bring your medical records and bills. Everything you have. All the documentation about your wife's condition and your financial situation." "I will. Thank you. Thank you so much." Jennifer smiled for the first time. "Don't thank me yet. But Mr. Musk will want to understand exactly what you're facing." As Marcus walked back to his car, his legs felt shaky. He couldn't believe what had just happened. In 8 hours, he was going to meet Elon Musk. The man who built rockets and electric cars and dreamed about the future was going to listen to his problems. Marcus spent the rest of the day gathering every piece of paper he could find. Sarah's diagnosis from UCLA Medical Center, treatment records from City of Hope, bills from doctors and hospitals and pharmacies, the eviction notice, bank statements showing their empty checking account, credit card statements showing maxed out balances. He organized everything in a folder, trying to make it look professional. His hands were still shaking. At 5:30, Marcus sat in his car outside SpaceX again. Through the windows, he could see engineers still working on rocket parts. These people were building machines that would take humans to other planets. And in 30 minutes, their boss was going to listen to Marcus talk about medical bills and eviction notices. At exactly 6 o'clock, Marcus walked back into the SpaceX lobby. Jennifer was waiting for him at the security desk. "Ready?" she asked. Marcus nodded. Even though he didn't feel ready at all, Jennifer led him through hallways lined with photos of rocket launches and space missions. She said something that made Marcus's heart race with both hope and terror. "Mr. Chun, I want you to know that Mr. Musk doesn't usually take meetings like this. But when I told him about your family, he cleared his entire evening. He said your situation reminded him of something important he'd been meaning to do." Marcus's heart pounded as he followed Jennifer through the SpaceX hallways. The walls were covered with amazing photos of rocket launches and astronauts in space. He'd never been inside a building like this before. Everything looked expensive and important. "What did he mean?" Marcus asked. "About my situation reminding him of something." Jennifer glanced back at him as they walked. "Mr. Musk will explain that himself. But I can tell you that he doesn't make time for just anyone. When I described your family's situation, something changed in his expression." They stopped at an elevator. As they waited, Marcus tried to calm his nerves. His folder of medical bills and records felt heavy in his hands. In a few minutes, he would be sitting across from one of the most famous people in the world. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped inside. Jennifer pressed the button for the 3rd floor. "Mr. Chun, can I ask you something?" she said. "Of course. When you walked into our lobby today, what were you hoping would happen?" Marcus thought about it. "Honestly, I was hoping someone would point me toward a program or charity I hadn't heard of. Maybe give me a phone number to call. I never imagined I'd actually get to meet Mr. Musk." Jennifer nodded. "That's what I thought. You weren't asking for a handout. You were asking for direction." The elevator stopped, and the doors opened. They walked down another hallway, this one quieter than the 1st floor. Through glass windows, Marcus could see people working at computers and drawing on whiteboards. Everyone looked focused and busy. "Here we are," Jennifer said, stopping outside a conference room. Through the glass walls, Marcus could see him. Elon Musk was sitting alone at a large table, reading through a stack of papers. He was wearing a simple black t-shirt and jeans, not a fancy suit like Marcus had expected. His hair looked a little messy, like he'd been running his hands through it while thinking. Marcus had seen Elon Musk in interviews and news articles, but seeing him in person felt different. He looked more normal than Marcus had imagined. More human. Jennifer knocked on the glass door and opened it. "Mr. Musk, this is Marcus Chun." Elon looked up from his papers. His eyes were tired but alert. He studied Marcus for a moment, then stood up and walked around the table. "Please, sit down," Elon said, gesturing to a chair across from him. His voice was quieter than Marcus had expected from watching him on TV. "Thank you for seeing me," Marcus said as he sat down. "I know you're busy." Elon returned to his seat. On the table between them, Marcus could see some of his own documents. Somehow, Jennifer had gotten copies of Sarah's medical records. "I've been reading about your wife's case," Elon said. "Sarah Chun, age 32. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer diagnosed 4 months ago. The oncologists at City of Hope believe the new immunotherapy treatment could extend her life significantly, but your insurance company has denied coverage 3 times. Marcus was amazed. Elon had memorized the details of Sarah's case. "That's right," Marcus said. "They say it's experimental and not proven effective enough. But the clinical trials show a 40% response rate for patients with your wife's specific genetic markers," Elon continued. "The treatment could give her years instead of months." Marcus felt hope rising in his chest. "You've researched her case?" "I have. And I've also looked into your financial situation. You work 3 jobs, but 70% of your income goes to medical bills and basic living expenses. You're about to be evicted from your apartment." Marcus nodded, feeling embarrassed. It was strange having a billionaire know all the details of his failures. "Mr. Musk, I'm not here asking for charity. I know you don't know me, but I heard you care about families like mine. I was hoping you might know about programs or resources I haven't found yet." Elon leaned back in his chair. "Tell me about your children." For the next 20 minutes, Marcus talked about Emma and Tyler. He told Elon how Emma loved science and dreamed of becoming an astronaut someday, how she read books about space exploration and asked questions about how rockets work, how Tyler was curious about everything and always wanted to know why things happen the way they did. "Emma talks about SpaceX all the time," Marcus said. "She knows the names of all your rockets. She wants to work here when she grows up." Elon smiled for the first time since Marcus had entered the room. Smart kids usually come from smart families. "What do you do for work?" Marcus felt his face get hot. "I work security at a warehouse at night. I do landscaping on weekends. And I drive for a food delivery app when I have time." 3 jobs, Elon said. "That takes dedication. It's not enough, though. No matter how hard I work, the bills keep growing." Elon stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting behind the SpaceX factory where Falcon 9 rockets were built. Marcus could see workers moving around inside the building, probably getting ready for the next launch. "Marcus, can I tell you something personal?" Elon asked. "Of course. 5 years ago, my son was in a serious car accident. For 3 days, we didn't know if he would live. I sat in that hospital watching other families deal with the same fear, but I knew something they didn't. I knew that no matter what my son needed, I could afford it. Medicine, surgery, the best doctors in the world. Money wasn't going to be the thing that decided whether my child lived or died." Elon turned back to Marcus. "But I watched other parents make impossible choices. I saw families torn apart not by illness, but by the cost of fighting illness. That's when I decided something had to change." Marcus didn't know what to say. He'd never thought about what it would be like to have unlimited money during a medical crisis. "I've been thinking for years about how to help families like yours," Elon continued. "Families where someone is fighting for their life, but money becomes the enemy instead of the disease." Marcus felt tears starting to form in his eyes. "Mr. Musk, I don't understand what you're saying." Elon returned to his seat and looked directly at Marcus. "I'm saying I want to help your family. All of it. Sarah's treatment, your medical debt, your housing situation. Everything." Marcus couldn't breathe. "I don't. How is that possible?" "It's possible because I have resources, and you have a family worth saving." The room felt like it was spinning. Marcus gripped the edge of the table. "But there's something I need from you in return," Elon said. Marcus's heart sank. Of course there was a catch. Rich people didn't just give away money without wanting something back. "What do you need?" Marcus asked. Elon leaned forward. "I need you to promise me that no matter what happens next, you'll never give up on your family. And that you'll teach your children to never give up on their dreams, no matter how impossible they seem." Marcus stared at him. "That's it. That's what you want. That's the most important thing I could ask for." Marcus felt the tears coming for real now. I promise. But Mr. Musk, I still don't understand why you're doing this. Elon picked up his phone and dialed a number. Dr. Rodriguez? This is Elon Musk. I'm sending you a patient file for Sarah Chun. I want you to start the immunotherapy treatment immediately. Marcus listened in shock as Elon arranged for Sarah's treatment to begin the next day. All costs covered. All logistics handled. When he hung up, Elon made another call to Jennifer about paying off their medical debt and covering their rent for the next year. Mr. Musk, Marcus whispered when the calls were finished. Why are you doing this? Really? Elon was quiet for a long moment. Because families like yours are the reason I work so hard to build the future. What's the point of going to Mars if we can't take care of the people who are already here? Marcus started crying. Real tears for the first time in months. Not tears of sadness or fear, but tears of relief and gratitude and disbelief. There's something else, Elon said. I'd like to offer you a job here at SpaceX. Entry-level manufacturing, but with full benefits and opportunities to advance. Your daughter wants to be a scientist? Maybe she can learn about rockets from the inside. Marcus could barely speak. Yes, sir. When do I start? Next Monday. Jennifer will handle your orientation. As Marcus stood to leave, Elon stopped him with a serious expression. Marcus, remember that promise you made about never giving up? Yes, sir. I'm going to hold you to that. Because what I'm about to tell you will test that promise in ways you can't imagine yet. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? Elon's expression was kind, but serious. You'll understand soon enough. For now, go home to your family. Tell Sarah that treatment starts tomorrow. Tell your children that Daddy got a job building rockets. As Marcus walked back through the SpaceX hallways, his mind was spinning. Sarah would get the treatment that could save her life. They wouldn't lose their apartment. He had a job at one of the most exciting companies in the world. But Elon's final words echoed in his head. What test was coming? What did Elon know that Marcus didn't? For now, though, Marcus didn't care. He had everything he'd prayed for and more. Tonight, for the first time in months, he would go home with good news instead of more problems. He just wished he understood what Elon meant about testing his promise to never give up. Marcus drove home in a daze. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as he tried to process what had just happened. Sarah would get her treatment. They would keep their apartment. He had a job at SpaceX.it felt like a dream, but Elon's warning kept playing in his head. What test was he talking about? What else could possibly go wrong when everything was finally going right? At home, Marcus found Sarah sitting up in bed for the first time in days. She was wearing the blue hat their neighbor had given her, and her eyes looked brighter than they had in weeks. You're back, she said with a weak smile. How did it go? Marcus sat on the edge of the bed and took her hands. They felt warmer than usual. Sarah, something amazing happened today. Something I can barely believe. He told her everything. About walking into SpaceX headquarters. About Robert the security guard helping him. About meeting Jennifer and then Elon Musk himself. About the treatment starting tomorrow at City of Hope. Sarah listened without interrupting. As Marcus talked, tears started running down her cheeks. Are you serious? She whispered. The immunotherapy treatment? Tomorrow, Dr. Rodriguez is expecting you at 9 in the morning. Everything is paid for. All of it. Sarah put her hands over her face and cried. These were happy tears, the kind Marcus hadn't seen in months. I can't believe this is real, she said. Things like this don't happen to people like us. Apparently they do, Marcus said. Elon Musk said families like ours are the reason he works so hard. They held each other for a long time, both crying and laughing at the same time. For the first time since Sarah's diagnosis, Marcus felt hope instead of fear. Emma and Tyler came, running into the bedroom when they heard their parents talking. Mommy, why are you crying? Tyler asked, climbing onto the bed. Happy tears, baby, Sarah said, pulling him close. Daddy has some good news to tell you. Marcus explained to the kids that Mommy was going to get special medicine that might make her feel much better. He told them that Daddy got a new job at the rocket company they could see from their window. Emma's eyes got huge. You're going to work at SpaceX? Really? Really? I start on Monday. Are you going to build rockets? Tyler asked. I'm going to help build rockets. And maybe someday, you two can come visit and see how they're made. The children bounced around the bed with excitement. Emma started asking a million questions about rockets and space travel. Tyler wanted to know if Daddy would go to the moon for the The first time in months, their apartment felt like a happy home again instead of a place where everyone worried all the time. That night, after the kids were asleep, Marcus and Sarah lay in bed talking about the future. They made plans they hadn't dared to make in months. Emma's science fair project, Tyler's birthday party next month, maybe even a vacation when Sarah felt better. "Marcus," Sarah said softly, "what did Mr. Musk mean about testing your promise?" Marcus had been wondering the same thing. "I don't know. Maybe he just meant that life is always going to have challenges, that we can't give up even when good things happen." "Maybe," Sarah agreed. But Marcus could tell she was worried too. The next morning, Marcus took Sarah to City of Hope Hospital. Dr. Rodriguez was a kind woman with gray hair who explained the immunotherapy treatment in simple terms. "We're going to help your immune system learn to fight the cancer cells," she told Sarah. "It's not easy treatment, and it doesn't work for everyone. But for patients with your genetic profile, we've seen very promising results." Sarah squeezed Marcus's hand. "What are the chances it will help?" "Based on recent clinical trials, about 60% of patients with your specific cancer type show significant improvement. Some patients see their tumors shrink dramatically. Others have their cancer completely disappear." Marcus felt his heart racing. Complete disappearance? Could Sarah actually be cured? Over the next 3 weeks, everything seemed to be going perfectly. Sarah's treatment was going well. The doctors said her blood work looked encouraging. Marcus started his job at SpaceX and loved learning about rocket manufacturing. His supervisor, Dave Martinez, had been a high school teacher before joining SpaceX. He was patient and kind, always willing to explain how things worked. "Mr. Musk personally requested you for our team," Dave told Marcus on his first day. "He doesn't usually get involved in hiring decisions at your level. You must have made quite an impression." Marcus worked hard to prove himself. He learned about rocket engines and fuel systems and launch procedures. Every day felt like school, but school for building the future. Emma was thrilled when Marcus brought home pictures of the rockets he was helping to build. She hung them on her bedroom wall and told everyone at school that her daddy worked at SpaceX. Tyler loved hearing bedtime stories about rockets and astronauts. Marcus would describe the huge factory where they built spacecraft, and Tyler would ask questions until he fell asleep. Sarah grew stronger every day. The treatment made her tired, but not the bone-deep exhaustion she'd felt during chemotherapy. She started cooking simple meals again. She even took the kids to the park one afternoon. For 3 perfect weeks, Marcus almost forgot about Elon's warning. Then Dr. Rodriguez called with news that changed everything. Marcus was at work when his phone rang. He stepped outside the factory to take the call. "Marcus, I need to see you and Sarah in my office this afternoon. We got some unexpected results from Sarah's latest tests." Marcus's heart stopped. "What kind of results?" "I'd rather discuss this in person. Can you be here at 3 o'clock? Is she okay? Is the treatment working?" There was a pause. "Just come in this afternoon. Bring Sarah." Marcus spent the rest of his shift trying not to panic. The treatment had been going so well. Sarah seemed to be getting better every day. What could be wrong? At City of Hope, Marcus and Sarah sat in Dr. Rodriguez's office holding hands. The doctor had a serious expression that made Marcus's stomach hurt. "The good news is that the immunotherapy is working even better than we hoped," Dr. Rodriguez said. "Sarah's tumor markers have dropped by 70%. The cancer is responding beautifully to treatment." Marcus felt confused. "That sounds like great news. What's the problem?" "The problem is what we discovered while running additional genetic tests. Sarah has a very rare genetic mutation that makes her cancer more treatable than we initially thought." Sarah squeezed Marcus's hand. "That sounds good too." Dr. Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. "It is good for Sarah, but this genetic mutation is hereditary. It can be passed down to children." Marcus felt the room start to spin. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we need to test Emma and Tyler immediately. If either of them has inherited this mutation, they will have a very high chance of developing the same type of cancer by the time they reach adulthood." The words hit Marcus like a truck. His children might face the same battle Sarah was fighting. The same fear, the same treatments, the same possibility of dying young. "How high of a chance?" Sarah asked quietly. 90%. If they have the mutation, it's almost certain they'll develop cancer by age 30. Marcus couldn't breathe. Just when everything was going right, just when they thought their nightmare was over, a new nightmare was beginning. "There's more," Dr. Rodriguez continued. Even if we catch it early, the preventive treatments these children would need aren't covered by most insurance plans. They're still experimental. The cost over a lifetime could exceed $1 million per child. Marcus stared at the doctor, in shock. Even with his new job at SpaceX, even with all of Elon's help, how could they possibly afford that kind of money? When can we test the children? Sarah asked. We can do the genetic testing this week. Results will take about 10 days. As they drove home, Marcus and Sarah sat in silence. Neither of them knew what to say. How do you tell an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old that they might face a battle for their lives before they even grow up? That night, Marcus lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Finally, he understood what Elon had meant about testing his promise to never give up. This was the test. Just when he thought his family was saved, he discovered they might need saving all over again. But he had made a promise. No matter what happened, he would never give up on his family, even if it meant asking for help he never imagined needing. The genetic test results arrived on a Thursday morning that felt like the longest day of Marcus's life. He and Sarah sat in Dr. Rodriguez's office, both of them gripping each other's hands so tightly their knuckles were white. Marcus had barely slept for 10 days. Every time he looked at Emma and Tyler, he wondered if they were carrying the same genetic time bomb that had nearly killed their mother. Let's start with Emma, Dr. Rodriguez said, opening a folder on her desk. Marcus held his breath. Emma tested. Negative. She doesn't have the genetic mutation. The relief hit Marcus like a wave. Sarah started crying immediately. Emma was safe. Their little girl who wanted to be a scientist would never have to face this particular battle. But Marcus's relief only lasted a second before the fear came rushing back. They still had to hear about Tyler. And Tyler? Sarah asked in a whisper. Dr. Rodriguez's expression grew more serious. Tyler tested positive. He has the same genetic mutation as Sarah. The words felt like a punch to Marcus's stomach. His 4-year-old son, who loved toy rockets and bedtime stories, who still believed the world was a safe place, was carrying genes that would almost certainly try to kill him someday. What does this mean for him? Marcus managed to ask. It means Tyler has a 90% chance of developing pancreatic cancer by age 30. But because we know now, we can monitor him closely starting when he's 18. We can catch it early and start preventive treatments. Sarah was crying harder now. What kind of preventive treatments? Advanced genetic therapies that can target the mutation before it becomes active cancer. Immune system boosters. Regular screenings with the latest technology. If we stay ahead of it, Tyler could live a completely normal life. Marcus felt a tiny spark of hope. So he doesn't have to get cancer? The treatments we're developing could prevent the cancer from ever forming. But they're still experimental. Most insurance companies won't cover them because they're not considered standard care yet. There it was. The crushing weight Marcus had been dreading. How much would these treatments cost? He asked the doctor. Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. Over Tyler's lifetime, probably between $1 and $2 million, starting when he turns 18 and continuing for the rest of his life. Marcus felt like he couldn't breathe. Even with his job at SpaceX, even with the help Elon had already given them, $2 million was impossible. There might be clinical trials he could join, Dr. Rodriguez continued. Research studies that would cover the costs. But those programs are limited and hard to get into. That evening, Marcus and Sarah sat at their kitchen table after the kids were asleep. They decided not to tell Emma and Tyler about the test results yet. Tyler was too young to understand, and Emma would just worry. We have to call Mr. Musk, Sarah said quietly. Marcus had been thinking the same thing, but he felt sick about it. I can't ask him for more help. He's already done so much for us. Marcus, this is Tyler's life we're talking about. I know, but what if he says no? What if he thinks we're taking advantage of his kindness? Sarah reached across the table and took his hand. You promised him you'd never give up on our family. That includes Tyler. Marcus knew she was right, but calling Elon felt like admitting he was a failure. Like he couldn't take care of his own family without constantly begging for help. The next morning at SpaceX, Marcus tried to focus on his work. But every time he looked at the rockets being built around him, he thought about Tyler's future. Would his son live long enough to see humans walking on Mars? During his lunch break, Marcus walked outside and called Jennifer. Hello, Marcus, she said. How's Sarah's treatment going? Very well, thank you. But something else has come up. I need to speak with Mr. Musk about my family again. Of course. Is everything okay? Marcus explained about Tyler's genetic test, results, and the massive cost of preventive treatments. "I'm so sorry," Jennifer said. "That must be terrifying for you and Sarah." "It is. I know Mr. Musk has already done so much for us, but I don't know where else to turn. He's in meetings this afternoon, but I'll get him the message. I'm sure he'll want to talk with you." 2 hours later, Marcus's phone rang. "Marcus, this is Elon. I heard about Tyler's test results. Mr. Musk, I'm sorry to bother you again, but Dr. Rodriguez says there are treatments that could prevent Tyler from ever getting cancer. The problem is the cost." "How much are we talking about?" "Up to $2 million over his lifetime." There was silence on the phone for several seconds. "Marcus, do you remember the promise you made me when we first met?" "Yes, sir. Never give up on my family. And I made a promise too, though I didn't tell you at the time." Marcus felt his heart beating faster. "What promise?" "I promised myself that I would make sure your family has every chance at a good future. All of your family, including Tyler." Marcus couldn't speak. "Tyler's medical care is handled," Elon continued, "for his entire life. Every treatment, every screening, every therapy he needs." "Mr. Musk, I can't ask you to do that. $2 million is..." "Marcus, $2 million to save a child's life is nothing compared to what I spend on rocket fuel in a month. But I need something from you in return." Marcus's stomach tightened. "Here it comes," he thought. "The real cost. What do you need?" Marcus asked. "I want you to help me start something new. A medical research foundation focused on genetic cancers like the one affecting your family. I need someone who understands what families go through. Someone who won't give up when things get difficult." Marcus was confused. "You want me to leave SpaceX?" "No, I want you to do both. Work at SpaceX part-time and help me build this foundation. We'll provide funding for research, cover treatment costs for families who can't afford it, and develop new therapies." Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You want me to help run a medical foundation?" "Eventually, yes. You'll need training first. We'll start you with online courses in nonprofit management and medical research basics. But I want you to help lead this organization." "Mr. Musk, I never even finished college. I don't know anything about running a foundation." Elon laughed. "I never finished college either. What matters is that you understand what we're fighting for." Marcus felt tears in his eyes. "You're serious about this?" "Completely serious. There are thousands of families facing the same challenges yours has faced. Families where love isn't enough because money becomes the barrier to saving lives. We're going to change that." "Why me?" "You could hire people with degrees and experience. Because those people have never sat in a hospital wondering if they'll lose their child because they can't afford treatment. You have. That makes you more qualified than any degree could." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, trying to process what Elon was offering. What would this foundation do exactly? Fund research into genetic cancers. Pay for treatments that insurance won't cover. Help families navigate the medical system. Train doctors in the latest therapies. Basically, make sure no family has to face what yours has faced. And you think I could help with that? I think you're exactly the right person to help with that. The question is, are you willing? Marcus thought about Tyler playing with toy rockets in their living room. He thought about all the other children out there carrying genetic mutations they didn't know about yet. He thought about all the other parents who would someday get the same devastating news he and Sarah had received. "Yes," Marcus said. "I'm willing." "Good. We'll call it Tomorrow's Families. Jennifer will set up your training schedule." After Elon hung up, Marcus sat in his car outside SpaceX for a long time. 6 months ago, he'd been a desperate father facing eviction and his wife's death. Now he was going to help run a foundation that could save thousands of families. But there was something in Elon's voice that made Marcus think there was more to this story. Something he wasn't being told yet. That evening, Marcus told Sarah about the foundation. She cried happy tears when he explained that Tyler's future medical care would be covered. "So our little boy is going to be okay?" she asked. "He's going to be fine. Better than fine. And we're going to help other families make sure their children are fine too." As Marcus tucked Tyler into bed that night, his son looked up at him with big, trusting eyes. "Daddy, are you really going to help save other kids like Mommy?" Marcus had never told Tyler about his own genetic risk, but somehow kids always know more than adults think they do. "Yes, buddy. Daddy's going to help lots of families." "That's good," Tyler said sleepily. "Everyone should have someone to help them." As Marcus turned off the light, he realized Tyler was right. Everyone should have someone to help them. And now, thanks to Elon Musk, Marcus was going to be that someone for families who needed it most. But he still couldn't shake the feeling that there was something about his story that he didn't understand yet. Over the next 6 months, Marcus's life changed in ways he never could have imagined. He split his time between working at SpaceX and taking online courses about nonprofit management and medical research. Every evening, he studied while Sarah helped Emma with homework and read bedtime stories to Tyler. Sarah's cancer went into complete remission. Her hair grew back thicker and shinier than before. She gained weight and started volunteering at Tyler's preschool. The doctors called her recovery remarkable and better than we dared hope. Marcus learned about clinical trials and research funding and how to help families navigate insurance problems. He studied genetic cancer mutations and experimental treatments. He read about families across the country facing the same battles his family had fought. Tomorrow's Families officially launched on a Tuesday morning in spring. Marcus stood in the foundation's new office in downtown Los Angeles, looking at the sign on the door. His name was printed underneath: Marcus Chun, Director of Family Support. Jennifer had helped him set up everything. They had computers and phones and filing cabinets full of information about genetic cancers. They had a website where families could apply for help. They had connections with the best hospitals and research centers in the country. Their first major research grant went to a team at Stanford University developing new treatments for children with genetic cancer risks. Their first family assistance check went to a single mother in Phoenix whose 6-year-old daughter had the same mutation as Tyler. Marcus felt proud of the work they were doing, but something still bothered him. Sometimes when he talked to Elon about the foundation, he got the feeling that Elon knew something he wasn't sharing. One afternoon, Marcus was reviewing applications for treatment funding when his phone rang. It was Dr. Rodriguez from City of Hope. "Marcus, I need to see you in my office this afternoon. There's something important we need to discuss about Tyler's case." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Is something wrong? Is Tyler okay? Tyler is fine, but I've discovered something that changes how we understand his genetic profile. Can you be here at 4 o'clock? Yes, I'll be there. Marcus spent the afternoon trying not to panic. Tyler's regular checkups had all been perfect. His blood work was normal. He was a healthy, happy 4-year-old who loved playing with rocket toys and asking questions about everything. At City of Hope, Dr. Rodriguez looked more serious than usual. She had several thick folders on her desk and was studying computer screens full of genetic data. "Marcus, sit down. I have some news about Tyler that's both good and complicated." "What do you mean?" Dr. Rodriguez opened one of the folders. "We've been running additional tests on Tyler's genetic sample as part of our ongoing research. We wanted to understand his mutation better so we could develop the best preventive treatment plan." Marcus nodded. "Okay, what we discovered is that Tyler's genetic mutation is even rarer than we initially thought. He doesn't just have the standard mutation that causes pancreatic cancer. He has a completely unique variation that we've never seen before." Marcus felt confused. "Is that bad?" "Actually, it might be very good. This unique mutation seems to make his cancer risk much lower than we originally calculated. Instead of a 90% chance of developing cancer by age 30, Tyler might have only a 10% chance." Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. "So Tyler probably won't get cancer?" "That's what the data suggests. But here's the complicated part. Tyler's genetic profile could be the key to developing treatments for thousands of other children with similar mutations." Dr. Rodriguez pulled up charts on her computer screen. "If we can understand how Tyler's unique mutation protects him from cancer, we might be able to create treatments that give other children the same protection." Marcus stared at the genetic charts, trying to understand what this meant. "Are you saying Tyler could help cure genetic cancer in children?" "I'm saying Tyler's DNA might contain the answer we've been looking for, but studying his genetic profile would require years of research and testing. It would mean Tyler becoming part of a major scientific study." Marcus felt overwhelmed. His son, who still needed help cutting his food and tying his shoes, might hold the key to saving other children's lives. What would this research involve? Regular blood tests and genetic screenings, participation in research studies, detailed medical monitoring as he grows up. Nothing painful or dangerous, but Tyler would essentially become one of the most studied children in genetic cancer research. Marcus thought about all the families he'd met through the foundation. Parents desperate to save their children. Kids facing the same fears his family had lived through. Would this research help other children like Tyler? Potentially, yes. If we can crack the code of Tyler's unique mutation, we might be able to prevent genetic cancers in thousands of children. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I need to talk to Sarah about this. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Marcus, there's something else you should know. Dr. Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. This research would be incredibly expensive. We're talking about a 20-year study involving multiple institutions. The cost would be in the tens of millions of dollars. Marcus felt that familiar sinking feeling. And insurance won't cover research. Research costs are never covered by insurance. But I've already spoken to someone who's interested in funding this study. Marcus didn't need to ask who. Mr. Musk? He called me yesterday. Apparently, he's been following Tyler's case very closely. When I told him about these new findings, he said he wanted to fund the entire research program. Marcus felt like the room was spinning. He knew about this before I did. Dr. Rodriguez looked even more uncomfortable. Marcus, I think Mr. Musk has been planning for this possibility for longer than you realize. That evening, Marcus sat in his car outside SpaceX headquarters. He needed to talk to Elon, but he wasn't sure what questions to ask. How long had Elon known about Tyler's unique genetic profile? Had he been planning this research study all along? Marcus called Jennifer. I need to see Mr. Musk tonight. It's about Tyler. He's in his office working late. I'll let him know you're coming. 10 minutes later, Marcus walked into the same conference room where he'd first met Elon almost a year ago. Elon was sitting at the table with genetic research papers spread out in front of him. You talked to Dr. Rodriguez, Elon said without looking up. You already knew about Tyler's unique mutation, didn't you? Elon finally looked at Marcus. I suspected something like this might be the case. How could you suspect it? The doctors just discovered it yesterday. Elon was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that made Marcus's world shift completely. Marcus, I need to tell you something about the day you first walked into this building. Something I probably should have told you months ago. Marcus sat down slowly. What? Your visit wasn't as random as you think it was. The room felt cold. Suddenly. What do you mean? Elon gathered the research papers into a neat stack. I mean, I'd been following Sarah's case for months before you showed up here. I knew about your family's situation long before you asked for help. Marcus stared at him. How is that possible? Do you remember Sarah's first oncologist at UCLA? Dr. Patterson. Of course. Dr. Patterson sits on the medical advisory board for Neuralink, one of my other companies. When Sarah's case came up in a discussion about patients who couldn't afford breakthrough treatments, he mentioned her specifically. Marcus felt like he was falling. So you knew about us before I came. Here, I knew about Sarah's cancer and your family's financial situation. When you showed up that day asking for help, Robert had been instructed to watch for anyone matching your description. The whole story was crumbling in Marcus's mind. You're telling me that everything was planned. Not planned exactly, but I had prepared for the possibility that you might reach out for help. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. Outside, engineers were working the night shift, building rockets that would carry humans to other planets. Inside this room, Marcus was learning that his entire story had been different from what he thought. The foundation, Marcus said slowly. You were planning that before you met me too. I'd been thinking about starting a medical foundation for years, but I needed the right person to lead it. Someone who understood what families go through. Marcus turned back to Elon. Someone like me. Someone exactly like you. Marcus felt angry for the first time since this all began. So I was never brave for walking in here. I was never taking a risk. You were expecting me. Elon stood up. Marcus, do you think it was easy for Dr. Patterson to mention your family in that meeting? Do you think it was easy for Robert to break protocol and help you? Do you think it was easy for Jennifer to rearrange my schedule? Marcus hadn't thought about it that way. Everyone who helped you get to me took a risk because they saw something in your story worth fighting for. That's not luck. That's character. Marcus felt confused and betrayed and grateful all at the same time. What about Tyler? Did you know about his unique mutation too? Elon walked over to stand next to Marcus at the window. I suspected Tyler might be special. Children who inherit genetic mutations sometimes develop natural protections against them. I've been funding research into that possibility for 3 years. So Tyler becoming the key to curing genetic cancer. That wasn't coincidence either. Science is never coincidence, Marcus. It's preparation meeting opportunity. Marcus looked at Elon with new eyes. What aren't you telling me? What's the real reason you're doing all this? Elon was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that would change everything Marcus thought he knew about his story. Because 5 years ago, I made a promise to another father whose child was dying. A promise I couldn't keep. Tyler represents my chance to finally keep that promise. Marcus stared at Elon in the dim light of the conference room. What promise? What other father? Elon walked back to the table and sat down heavily. For the first time since Marcus had known him, Elon looked tired and sad. His name was David Miller. His son Jake was 7 years old when he was diagnosed with the same genetic mutation Tyler has. Marcus felt his heart beating faster. What happened to Jake? Jake died 3 years ago. He was 12. The words hit Marcus like ice water. But you said Tyler's mutation is different, that it protects him. Tyler's mutation is a variation of Jake's. Jake had the dangerous version that causes cancer. Tyler has what appears to be the protective version. But we didn't know variations existed until we studied Tyler's genetic profile. Elon stood up and walked to a cabinet in the corner of the room. He pulled out a photo and handed it to Marcus. The picture showed a young boy with brown hair and a huge smile. He was wearing a SpaceX t-shirt and standing next to a rocket model. He looked happy and healthy and full of life. Jake wanted to be an astronaut, Elon said quietly. His father brought him to SpaceX for a tour when Jake was first diagnosed. I promised David that we would find a way to save his son. Marcus looked at the photo more closely. Jake had the same bright eyes as Tyler, the same curious expression, the same love of rockets and space. Did you try to help them? I tried everything. I paid for every treatment available. Experimental therapies, clinical trials, the best doctors in the world. Nothing worked. Jake's mutation was too aggressive. The cancer spread faster than any treatment could stop it. Elon sat back down. David and I became friends during those 3 years. He was a good father, like you. He worked 2 jobs to support his family. He never gave up hope, even when the doctors said there was nothing more they could do. Marcus felt tears starting to form. Where is David now? He moved away after Jake died. Said he couldn't live in the same city where his son had suffered. I haven't spoken to him in over a year. Marcus looked at the photo again. And you think Tyler might be the key to saving other children like Jake? I think Tyler's unique genetic profile could lead to treatments that prevent the mutation from becoming active cancer. If we can understand how Tyler's version protects him, we might be able to create that same protection for other children. Marcus set the photo down on the table. So when you decided to help my family, it wasn't really about us. It was about Jake. Elon looked directly at Marcus. It was about both. When Dr. Patterson told me about Sarah's case, I realized this might be my chance to finally make a difference, to keep the promise I made to David. But you didn't tell me any of this. You let me think it was all coincidence. Because if I had told you the truth, how would you have felt? Like a tool in my plan to fix my past mistakes? Like your family only mattered because of what Tyler's genes might do for other people? Marcus thought about this. Elon was right. If he had known the real reason for Elon's help, everything would have felt different. So what happens now? Marcus asked. Now we give Tyler the choice. When he's old enough to understand, we explain what his genetic profile could mean for other children. We let him decide if he wants to be part of the research that could save lives. Marcus picked up Jake's photo again. What would you tell David if you could talk to him now? I would tell him that his son's life meant something. That Jake's battle helped us understand this mutation better. That because of Jake, we might be able to save other children. Elon was quiet for a moment. And I would apologize for not being able to keep my promise to him. Marcus stood up and walked to the window again. Outside, the SpaceX factory was still busy with the night shift. People building rockets to explore space. People working to expand the possibilities for human life. Elon, can I ask you something? Of course. If Tyler's research leads to treatments that save other children, will that really make up for Jake? Elon joined Marcus at the window. No. Nothing will bring Jake back or take away David's pain, but it might mean that other fathers won't have to live through what David experienced. Marcus thought about all the families he'd met through the foundation. Parents fighting to save their children. Kids facing battles they were too young to understand. How many children have this mutation? Current estimates suggest about 500 children are born with genetic cancer mutations like Tyler's every year in the United States. Worldwide, maybe 3,000. Marcus felt the weight of those numbers. 3,000 children every year facing what Jake had faced. 3,000 families living the nightmare his family had almost lived. And you think Tyler's genetics could help all of them? If we can develop treatments based on Tyler's protective mutation, yes, we could potentially prevent genetic cancer in thousands of children. Marcus was quiet for a long time, thinking about Tyler playing with his rocket toys at home. His little boy had no idea that his DNA might hold the key to saving other children's lives. "There's something else I need to tell you," Elon said. Marcus turned around. "What now?" "The research foundation we've built, Tomorrow's Families, was specifically designed to support this kind of genetic research. Everything we've done, helping your family, training you to run the foundation, building relationships with hospitals, it was all preparation for this moment." Marcus felt that familiar feeling of the ground shifting under his feet. "So, I was being prepared to oversee Tyler's research." "You were being prepared to oversee research that could help thousands of families like yours. Tyler's case is part of that, but it's not the only part." Elon walked back to the table and picked up some of the research papers. "Marcus, in the past year, your foundation has helped 847 families access treatments they couldn't afford. You've raised $12 million for genetic cancer research. You've testified before Congress about healthcare reform." Marcus had been so focused on Tyler's case that he'd almost forgotten about all the other work the foundation was doing. The research study involving Tyler would be the foundation's biggest project yet, Elon continued. "But even if Tyler decides not to participate, the foundation will continue helping families and funding research." Marcus sat back down. "So this isn't all about Tyler. It's about Tyler and thousands of other children like him. Children like Jake who deserve a chance to grow up and become astronauts or scientists or whatever they dream of being." Marcus looked at Jake's photo one more time. The boy's smile reminded him so much of Tyler's. Full of hope and curiosity and trust that the adults in his life would keep him safe. "If we do this research, if Tyler participates, what happens to our family? Do we become famous? Do we lose our privacy?" "The research would be confidential. Tyler's identity would be protected. He would just be patient T in all the scientific papers and publications." Marcus thought about Sarah and Emma at home. Sarah was healthy now, volunteering at Tyler's school and living the normal life she'd almost lost. Emma was thriving in school and still talking about becoming a scientist. Tyler was a happy 4-year-old who loved stories and rockets and didn't know that adults worried about anything. "I need to talk to Sarah about this," Marcus said. "Of course. Take all the time you need." As Marcus stood to leave, Elon stopped him. "Marcus, whatever you and Sarah decide about Tyler's participation, I want you to know something. You've already helped me keep my promise to David in ways I never expected." "What do you mean?" "The foundation you've built, the families you've helped, the research you've funded. Jake's death wasn't meaningless if it led to all of this. You've turned tragedy into hope for hundreds of families." Marcus felt tears in his eyes. "But it still won't bring Jake back." "No, but it might mean that someday, no father will have to bury his child because of genetic cancer." As Marcus drove home that night, he thought about David Miller, somewhere in another city, grieving for his son Jake. He thought about Tyler, asleep in his bed at home, dreaming about rockets and adventures, and he thought about the choice that lay ahead, whether to let his 4-year-old son become the center of research that could save thousands of other children's lives. It was the biggest decision Marcus had ever faced, and he had no idea what the right answer was. When Marcus arrived home that night, he found Sarah in Tyler's room, reading him a bedtime story about astronauts exploring Mars. Tyler was curled up under his rocket-themed blanket, his eyes heavy with sleep. "And then the astronauts planted a flag on the red planet," Sarah read softly, knowing that children on Earth were dreaming of following in their footsteps someday. Tyler smiled sleepily. "Like me, Mommy. Especially like you, sweetheart." Marcus watched from the doorway, thinking about Jake Miller's photo and the choice they now faced. Tyler looked so small and innocent, unaware that his genetic code might hold the key to saving other children's lives. After Tyler fell asleep, Marcus and Sarah sat at their kitchen table. He told her everything about Jake Miller, about David's broken promise, about Tyler's unique mutation that could lead to treatments for thousands of children. Sarah listened without interrupting, her hands folded tightly in her lap. When Marcus finished, she was quiet for a long time. So Tyler might not get cancer after all? She finally asked. Probably not. His mutation seems to protect him rather than threaten him, and his genetics could help develop treatments for other children. That's what Dr. Rodriguez and Elon believe. Sarah stood up and walked to the window. Outside, they could see the lights of the SpaceX building in the distance. What kind of research would Tyler have to go through? Regular blood tests and genetic screening, medical monitoring as he grows up. Nothing painful or dangerous, but he'd essentially become one of the most studied children in genetic cancer research. Sarah turned back to Marcus. For how long? 20 years. Maybe longer. So Tyler would grow up knowing he's part of a scientific study, knowing that other children's lives might depend on what researchers learn from him. Marcus nodded. That's a lot of pressure for a kid. They sat in silence for several minutes, both thinking about their sleeping son upstairs. Marcus, can I tell you something? Of course. When I was first diagnosed with cancer, I felt angry. Why me? Why our family? We're good people. We work hard. We love each other. It seems so unfair. Marcus took her hand. I felt the same way. But then I started meeting other families at the hospital. Other mothers fighting the same battle. Other children scared and confused about why their parents were sick. And I realized something. What? It wasn't about fairness. It was about what we did with the situation we were given. We could let it destroy us, or we could find ways to help others going through the same thing. Marcus squeezed her hand gently. You think we should let Tyler participate in the research? I think we should give Tyler the information he needs to make his own choice when he's old enough to understand it. He's only 4 years old. I know, but this isn't a decision we have to make tonight. We have years to help him understand what his genetics could mean for other children. Years to teach him about helping others and making difficult choices. Marcus looked toward the stairs where Tyler was sleeping. What if he says no when he's older? What if he doesn't want the pressure of being responsible for other children's lives? Then we support his decision. But Tyler is a kind, caring little boy. Look how he worries about other kids at preschool when they're sad. Look how he wants to help when I'm not feeling well. Sarah was right. Tyler had always been sensitive to other people's feelings. Even at 4 years old, he tried to take care of others. There's something else, Marcus said. Elon told me that. Everything, helping our family, starting the foundation, training me to run it, was all preparation for this research study. Sarah thought about this. Does that change how you feel about the help we received? Marcus considered the question. I don't know. Part of me feels like we were used. Like our family was just a tool in Elon's plan to fix his past mistakes. But look at what's happened, Marcus. I'm alive and healthy. You have a job you love. We've helped hundreds of other families through the foundation. Tyler is going to grow up knowing his parents never gave up on each other. She was right again. Whatever Elon's original motivations, the results had been incredible for their family and many others. Do you think Jake Miller's father would want us to do this research? Sarah asked. Marcus thought about David Miller, grieving for his lost son. I think he'd want other fathers to have a chance to save their children. Over the next several months, Marcus and Sarah began preparing Tyler for the possibility of being part of important medical research. They read him books about scientists and doctors who help sick children. They talked about how some people are born with special gifts that can help others. Tyler listened to these conversations with the serious attention he gave to all important topics. So some kids get sick because of their genes? Tyler asked one evening. Yes, Sarah explained. But scientists are learning how to fix those genes so kids don't have to get sick anymore. And I might be able to help them figure it out. You might, Marcus said. But only if you want to when you're older. Tyler nodded thoughtfully. Would it hurt? No, buddy. Just some blood tests sometimes. Like when you go to the doctor for checkups. And it would help other kids not get sick like mommy did. It might help a lot of kids. Tyler was quiet for a moment. I think I'd want to help. But can I still be an astronaut too? Marcus and Sarah smiled. You can be anything you want to be. Meanwhile, the Tomorrow's Families Foundation continued to grow. Marcus had become one of the leading advocates for genetic cancer research funding in the country. He'd testified before Congress about the need for insurance coverage of experimental treatments. He'd spoken at medical conferences about supporting families through genetic cancer diagnoses. The foundation had helped over 1,200 families access treatments they couldn't afford. They'd funded research projects at 15 major universities. They'd opened offices in 6 cities across the United States. 1 year after learning about Tyler's unique mutation, Marcus received a phone call that changed everything. "Marcus, this is Dr. Rodriguez. I have some incredible news about the genetic research program." "What is it?" "We've made a breakthrough. Using data from Tyler's genetic profile, we've developed a preliminary treatment that could prevent genetic cancer mutations from becoming active. The early results are beyond anything we hoped for." Marcus felt his heart racing. "What kind of results?" "In laboratory tests, the treatment successfully prevented cancer development in 95% of genetic samples with Tyler's type of mutation. If human trials are equally successful, we could essentially eliminate genetic pancreatic cancer in children." Marcus couldn't speak for a moment. "Are you saying Tyler's genetics really could cure genetic cancer?" "I'm saying Tyler's contribution to this research might save thousands of children's lives." That evening, Marcus called Elon to share the news. "This is what David Miller dreamed of," Elon said quietly. "A world where no child has to die from genetic cancer. Do you think David would be proud of what we've accomplished?" "I think David would be amazed that his son's death led to research that could save so many other children." 3 months later, Marcus stood on a stage at the National Institutes of Health in Washington, D.C., presenting the foundation's annual report to an audience of doctors, researchers, and government officials. 3 years ago, I was a desperate father facing the loss of my wife and the potential homelessness of my family," he began. "Today, because of the generosity of people who believed in us, we've created a foundation that has helped over 1,500 families and funded research that could eliminate genetic cancer in children." In the audience, Sarah sat with Emma and Tyler, all of them healthy and smiling. Tyler was now 7 years old and had decided he wanted to participate in the genetic research study when he turned 10. "The greatest gift isn't money or medical treatment," Marcus continued. "The greatest gift is the opportunity to transform your own pain into hope for others. To take the worst thing that's ever happened to you and use it to make sure it doesn't happen to other families." After his presentation, a man approached Marcus backstage. He was tall and thin with gray hair and tired eyes. "Mr. Chen, my name is David Miller." Marcus's heart stopped. "Jake's father." David nodded. "I saw your presentation online. I wanted to thank you for what you're doing, for keeping the promise that couldn't be kept for my son." Marcus felt tears in his eyes. "I'm so sorry about Jake." "Don't be sorry. Be proud. Because of your family's willingness to help with this research, other children might live. That's what Jake would have wanted." David handed Marcus a small photo. It was the same picture of Jake that Elon had shown him years ago. "I want you to keep this," David said, "as a reminder that every child you help save carries a piece of Jake's spirit with them." As Marcus drove home that night, he thought about the incredible journey his family had taken, from desperate poverty and medical crisis to leading a foundation that was changing the world for families facing genetic cancer. But the most amazing part wasn't the money or the medical breakthroughs or even the lives they'd saved. The most amazing part was realizing that the gift Elon Musk had given his family wasn't financial help or medical treatment. The real gift was the transformation from people who needed help into people who could provide it, from a family broken by the system into a family that could fix the system for others, from desperate parents into leaders who ensured no family would face their darkest hours alone. That night, as Marcus tucked Tyler into bed, his son looked up at him with eyes full of hope and determination. "Daddy, when I start the research study, will we be able to help kids like Jake?" "Yes, buddy. We're going to help lots of kids like Jake." "Good," Tyler said sleepily. "Everyone deserves to grow up and follow their dreams." As Marcus turned off the light, he realized that Tyler had just summarized the entire purpose of everything they'd built. Everyone deserves to grow up and follow their dreams. That was the unbelievable gift Elon Musk had given them. Not money or medicine, but the power to make that dream come true for families everywhere. 2 years later, Marcus stood in the lobby of SpaceX headquarters, watching a scene that reminded him of his own desperate visit 5 years ago. A young father clutched a folder of medical bills while talking to Robert at the security desk. The man's eyes held the same fear and hope Marcus remembered feeling. The Tomorrow's Families Foundation now operated in 12 cities and had helped over 2,800 families. Tyler's genetic research had led to successful human trials of the cancer prevention treatment. Emma was in middle school, excelling in science and talking about medical school. Sarah had become a full-time counselor for cancer patients at City of Hope. But on this particular Thursday morning, Marcus was here for a different reason. Dr. Rodriguez had called him with news that would change everything he thought he knew about his family's story. "Marcus, I need to see you immediately," she had said. "There's something about Sarah's original case that I just discovered. Something that changes our understanding of your entire story." Now Marcus sat in Dr. Rodriguez's office, the same room, where he'd learned about Tyler's genetic mutation years ago. The doctor looked nervous as she opened a thick file. "Marcus, I've been reviewing Sarah's original medical records as part of a research paper I'm writing about genetic cancer families. I found something that I missed before." "What kind of something?" Dr. Rodriguez pulled out a lab report dated 6 months before Marcus had ever walked into SpaceX. "This is Sarah's initial genetic testing from UCLA Medical Center. I always assumed it was standard screening, but I decided to look more closely." Marcus studied the paper, but the scientific terms meant nothing to him. "What am I looking at?" "You're looking at proof that Sarah's case was flagged for special attention long before you asked anyone for help." Marcus felt a familiar chill. "What do you mean?" "This genetic test was ordered by someone outside the normal medical team. Someone who specifically requested detailed analysis of Sarah's mutation and its hereditary implications." "Who ordered it?" Dr. Rodriguez handed him another document. At the bottom, Marcus saw a signature that made his heart stop. "Dr. Patricia Williams, Genetic Research Consultant, Neuralink Corporation." Marcus stared at the signature. Neuralink is one of Elon's companies. That's right. Dr. Williams was specifically looking for families with Sarah's type of genetic profile. And she found your family 6 months before you ever heard of her. The room felt like it was spinning. "So Elon knew about us even earlier than he admitted?" "It gets more complicated than that." Dr. Rodriguez pulled out her computer and showed Marcus a series of emails. "I found these in Sarah's digital medical file. They're correspondence between Dr. Williams and Sarah's original oncologist, Dr. Patterson." Marcus read the emails with growing shock. Dr. Williams had been tracking families with genetic cancer mutations for over a year. She had identified Sarah as having optimal genetic markers for research purposes. Dr. Patterson had been instructed to monitor Sarah's case and report if the family faced financial difficulties that might make them receptive to research participation. "They were watching us," Marcus said quietly, "waiting for us to become desperate enough to accept help." "It appears that way, yes." Marcus felt angry and confused. "So when I walked into SpaceX that day, it wasn't brave. It wasn't even coincidence. It was part of their plan all along." Dr. Rodriguez closed the file. "Marcus, there's more. I think you need to hear this directly from someone who was involved in the planning." She picked up her phone and dialed a number. "Dr. Williams? This is Dr. Rodriguez at City of Hope. I'm here with Marcus Chen. I think it's time he knew the whole truth." 20 minutes later, Dr. Patricia Williams arrived at the hospital. She was a small woman with short gray hair and intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She looked nervous as she sat down across from Marcus. "Mr. Chen, I owe you an explanation." "I think you owe me more than that." Dr. Williams nodded. "You're right. What I'm about to tell you will probably make you angry, but I hope you'll understand why we did what we did." Marcus crossed his arms. "I'm listening." 3 years before Sarah was diagnosed, Mr. Musk asked me to identify families who might benefit from a genetic cancer research program he was planning. Families with the right genetic profiles and the financial need that would make them willing to participate. "You were looking for desperate people to experiment on." "No, we were looking for families whose children might hold the key to saving thousands of other children. Families who would understand the importance of the research because they'd lived through the crisis themselves." Dr. Williams pulled out a tablet and showed Marcus a list of names. Sarah's name was on this list for 2 years before she was diagnosed with cancer. "We knew from her genetic screening during Emma's pregnancy that she carried the mutation." Marcus felt sick. "You knew Sarah would get cancer before she did." "We knew she had the genetic markers that made cancer likely. We also knew that if she had children, those children might inherit protective versions of the mutation." "So you watched and waited for her to get sick?" Dr. Williams looked uncomfortable. "We monitored her case through routine medical records. When she was diagnosed, Dr. Patterson was instructed to ensure she received the best possible care while also documenting her genetic profile. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see families walking into the hospital, just like his family had years ago. Scared people looking for hope. What about Tyler's unique mutation? Was that planned too? Tyler's protective mutation was a surprise to everyone. We hoped he might have inherited some resistance to the cancer, but his genetic profile exceeded our wildest expectations. Marcus turned back to Dr. Williams. And the foundation? My job? Everything was designed to make me the perfect person to oversee Tyler's research. The foundation was always Mr. Musk's goal. He needed someone who understood what families go through. Someone who wouldn't give up when the work got difficult. Someone who genuinely cared about helping others. Someone you could manipulate. Dr. Williams was quiet for a moment. Someone who would transform their own pain into purpose for others. Marcus sat back down. Did you ever think about just asking for our help? Instead of orchestrating this elaborate plan? Would you have said yes if a stranger had approached your family when Sarah was healthy and asked if your future children could participate in genetic research? Marcus thought about it honestly. Probably not. But when you were facing the loss of your wife and your home, when you were desperate for any solution, you were willing to accept help. And once you experienced the fear and hope and gratitude, you became someone who could genuinely help other families. Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward. Marcus, I know this feels like betrayal, but look at what's been accomplished. The genetic therapy, developed from Tyler's research, has now prevented cancer in 47 children who would have died without it. Marcus felt tears in his eyes, but he wasn't sure if they were from anger or sadness or something else. 47 children. 47. Families who will never have to live through what you lived through, Dr. Williams said. Children who will grow up healthy because Tyler was willing to participate in the research. Marcus thought about Tyler, now 9 years old and thriving in the research program. He thought about Emma, pursuing her dreams of becoming a doctor. He thought about Sarah, healthy and helping other cancer patients every day. There's something else you need to know, Dr. Williams said. About David Miller and his son Jake. Marcus looked up sharply. What about them? Jake wasn't the first child Mr. Musk tried to save. Over the past 10 years, he's funded treatment for dozens of children with genetic cancers. Most of them died. Despite his help, how many children? 63 children. 63 families that Mr. Musk helped, and 63 funerals he attended. Marcus felt the weight of those numbers. 63 children who had died despite having access to the best medical care money could buy. Your family represented something different, Dr. Williams continued. Not just another child to try to save, but the possibility of preventing future children from ever needing to be saved. So we were chosen because Tyler might be the key to ending genetic cancer in children? You were chosen because your family had the strength to transform tragedy into hope for others. The genetic research was important, but your leadership of the foundation has been equally valuable. Marcus was quiet for a long time, processing everything he'd learned. His entire story, everything he thought he knew about his family's journey, had been guided by people he'd never heard of. Does Elon know you're telling me this? Dr. Williams and Dr. Rodriguez exchanged glances. Mr. Musk asked us to tell you when the time was right, Dr. Rodriguez said. He said you deserved to know the whole truth once the research program was successful. And he thought now was the right time. He thought you were strong enough to handle the truth without it changing your commitment to helping other families. Marcus stood up to leave. I need to talk to Elon. As he walked toward the door, Dr. Williams called after him. Mr. Chen, whatever you're feeling right now, remember that 47 children are alive because of the choices your family made. That's not manipulation. That's the most meaningful work anyone could ever do. Marcus drove toward SpaceX with his mind racing. He felt angry about being deceived, but also amazed by what had been accomplished. He felt used, but also proud of the lives that had been saved. Most of all, he felt like he finally understood the true scope of what Elon Musk had been building. Not just help for one family, but a systematic approach to ending genetic cancer in children forever. The question now was whether knowing the truth would change how he felt about the work they were doing together. Marcus found Elon in the same conference room where they'd first met 5 years ago. The table was covered with genetic research papers, photos of children, and a computer screen showing a map dotted with red markers, each one representing a family the Tomorrow's Families Foundation had helped. Dr. Williams told me everything, Marcus said as he sat down. Elon looked up from his work. I figured she would eventually. How do you feel? Angry, grateful, confused, used, proud. Marcus shook his head. I don't know how I feel. Elon closed his laptop and gave Marcus his full attention. Tell me what you're thinking. I'm thinking that everything I believed about my story was wrong. My wife didn't just happen to get cancer. You didn't just happen to help us. Tyler didn't just happen to have unique genetics. It was all planned. Not planned exactly. Anticipated. Marcus felt his anger rising. What's the difference? Elon stood up and walked to the window. The difference is that we created opportunities for good things to happen, but you and your family still had to choose to make them happen. You watched Sarah for 2 years before she got cancer. We monitored genetic markers in hundreds of families. Sarah was one of many people we thought might develop cancer based on their genetics. Marcus joined Elon at the window, and when she did get sick, you were ready to swoop in and save us. We were ready to offer help if you wanted it. You still had to be brave enough to walk through those doors and ask. But Robert was told to watch for me. Jennifer was instructed to make time for me. You had already researched our case. Elon nodded. All true. So I was never brave. I was just following a script you had already written. Elon turned to face Marcus. Do you remember what happened the day you first came here? I asked for help. Before that, you dropped your kids at school. You told them everything would be okay, even though you didn't believe it. You worked 3 jobs while your wife was dying. You never gave up on your family. Marcus was quiet. The day you walked in here, Elon continued, you weren't just asking for help. You were willing to embarrass yourself, to beg if necessary, to save your family. That courage doesn't come from a script. But you knew I would come. We hoped. Someone like you would come. Someone who understood that love isn't enough if you don't have the resources to act on it. Elon walked back to the table and picked up a photo. It showed a young girl with bright eyes and a huge smile. This is Maria Santos. She's 8 years old, from Phoenix. 6 months ago, her parents were facing the same choice you faced. Their daughter had genetic cancer markers. They couldn't afford the preventive treatment. Marcus looked at the photo. Maria looked healthy and happy. The Tomorrow's Families Foundation paid for her treatment. She's cancer-free and will stay that way for the rest of her life. Her parents didn't have to walk into anyone's office begging for help because you had already built the system to help them. Elon picked up another photo. This is James Kim from Seattle. Age 6. Same story. And this is Sofia Rodriguez from Miami. Age 4. He spread dozens of photos across the table. Children of all ages, all smiling, all alive because of the foundation Marcus had built. 47 children, Marcus. 47 families who will never have to live through what you lived through. Marcus stared at the photos. Each child represented a family that had been spared the terror he remembered. And it's not just the children, Elon continued. Your foundation has trained 300 doctors in genetic cancer treatments. You've funded research at 22 universities. You've helped write legislation that requires insurance companies to cover experimental treatments for children. Marcus picked up one of the photos. A boy about Tyler's age holding a baseball. What's his name? Connor Williams. From Denver. His parents are both teachers. They would never have been able to afford his treatment without your foundation. And he's okay. Completely healthy. He wants to be a marine biologist when he grows up. Marcus set the photo down and looked at all the others. 47 children who were alive and dreaming about their futures. Marcus, can I show you something? Elon opened his computer and pulled up a document titled Genetic Cancer Research Foundation, Original Proposal. The date at the top was 6 years ago. This is the plan I wrote before I ever heard of your family. I knew I wanted to start a foundation to help families with genetic cancer. But look at this section. Marcus read where Elon was pointing. The foundation will require leadership from someone with personal experience facing genetic cancer in their family. This person must understand the patient experience, demonstrate resilience under extreme stress, and possess the emotional intelligence to help other families navigate similar crises. You wrote this before you knew us. I wrote this because I knew that somewhere out there was a family like yours. A family that would face this crisis and emerge stronger. A family that would understand both the medical and emotional challenges. Elon pulled up another document. This is a list of 43 families we were monitoring for genetic cancer risks. Your family was number 17 on the list. Marcus scanned the names. What happened to the other families? Some never developed cancer. Some got cancer but had adequate insurance coverage. Some weren't interested in participating in research. Some didn't have children with the right genetic profiles. And some died. Elon's expression grew sad. Yes, 8 children from these families died before we could help them. That's why finding your family was so important. Marcus felt the weight of that information. 8 children who might have lived if the foundation had existed sooner. The unbelievable gift I gave your family, Elon said quietly, wasn't money or medical treatment. It was the chance to become the people who could prevent other families from losing their children. Marcus looked around the room at all the research papers and photos and charts showing the foundation's impact. You turned us into the solution to our own problem. I gave you the resources to become who you were meant to be. Marcus sat back down and picked up another photo. A little girl with curly hair holding a stuffed animal. What's her name? Emma Rodriguez. Age 3. She shares the same name as your daughter. Her treatment started last week. Marcus felt tears starting to form. She's going to be okay? Because of the treatments developed from Tyler's research. Yes, she'll live a completely normal life. And her parents won't have to go through what Sarah and I went through. They'll never have to choose between saving their child and losing their home. They'll never have to work 3 jobs while their child is sick. They'll never have to feel helpless while their baby suffers. Marcus cried then. Real tears for all the families who would be spared the nightmare his family had endured. The gift wasn't helping us, Marcus said through his tears. The gift was helping us become the people who could help others. The gift was showing you that your pain had a purpose, that your struggle could become other families' salvation. Marcus wiped his eyes and looked at Elon. Why didn't you tell me the truth from the beginning? Because you needed to believe you were strong enough to save your own family before you could believe you were strong enough to save other families. And now you've proven it, to yourself and to everyone else. Marcus stood up and walked to the photos spread across the table. 47 children who were alive because he had been willing to transform his family's tragedy into hope for others. What happens next? Next, we expand the foundation to every major city in the country. We fund research that could eliminate genetic cancer in children within the next decade. We make sure no family ever faces what yours faced. And Tyler continues his participation in the research program until he decides he's done. He's already contributed enough genetic data to help develop treatments for children with 12 different cancer mutations. Marcus picked up the photo of Connor Williams again. The boy was smiling at a baseball game, probably unaware that his life had been saved by another child's willingness to participate in medical research. Tyler asked me yesterday if he was helping kids like Jake Miller. What did you tell him? I told him he was helping lots of kids like Jake. Kids who get to grow up and play baseball and become marine biologists. Elon smiled. That's exactly right. Marcus looked out the window at the SpaceX factory where rockets were being built to carry humans to Mars. You know what's funny? What? 5 years ago, I came here asking for help saving my family. I thought, the unbelievable thing you did was paying our bills and getting Sarah treatment. And now I realize the unbelievable thing was giving us the chance to save other families, turning us from people who needed help into people who could provide it. Marcus gathered up the photos of the 47 children. These kids will never know what it feels like to have cancer threaten their lives. Their parents will never know what it feels like to choose between saving their child and keeping their home. That's the real gift, Elon said. The elimination of that kind of suffering for future families. And it happened because you saw potential in a desperate father who walked into your building 5 years ago. It happened because that desperate father was willing to transform his pain into purpose. Marcus put the photos in his briefcase. He wanted to show them to Sarah and Tyler and Emma. He wanted his family to see the faces of the children they had helped save. Elon, can I ask you one more question? Of course. Do you think David Miller would be proud of what we've accomplished? Elon was quiet for a moment. I think David would be amazed that his son's death led to a system that ensures no other father will have to bury his child because of genetic cancer. As Marcus prepared to leave, he realized that every part of his story, the desperation, the fear, the hope, the recovery, the growth, had been necessary to create the person who could lead. This foundation, the unbelievable gift, hadn't been charity. It had been transformation, From a man who needed saving into a man who could save others. From a family broken by the system into the family that fixed the system. From people who received help into people who provided hope. That was the gift that no amount of money could buy and no act of charity could provide. The gift of becoming the person the world needed him to be. That was the end of Marcus Chin's incredible journey, from a desperate father facing eviction to the leader of a foundation that has saved thousands of children's lives. The unbelievable gift Elon Musk gave wasn't money or medical treatment, but the power to transform personal tragedy into hope for countless families that we'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let us know what city or country you're in. If this story touched your heart and inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories like this one. We share amazing tales of kindness, resilience, and how ordinary people can create extraordinary change in the world. And don't keep this story to yourself. Share it with your friends and family. In a world that often feels divided, stories like Marcus's remind us of the power of compassion and the ripple effect one act of kindness can create. Together, we can spread more awareness about the challenges families face and the hope that exists when people choose to help each other. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the greatest gift isn't what you receive, but discovering the power you have to give back to others. Until next time, keep believing in the extraordinary potential within ordinary people.